build highways. We need to continue to build highways. But we cannot neglect public transportation. When you think of a borough like mine from Queens County, most of the individuals who go to work every day, the only way they can get to work is by subway, by the Long Island Railroad, or by bus. Public transportation. And we need people to continue to maintain and run those systems. It creates the job. It is a common sense policy that we need to move forward with in Washington, D.C.
I'm out here basically to keep buses on the road, keep a green environment, and to keep people's jobs from being in jeopardy.
There's the whole federal funding scheme and how mass transit is shorted by the federal government. And then there's the jobs bill from 2009, which is referred to as the stimulus money, where the MTA received $1 billion, either to create jobs or to prevent the loss of jobs. Out of that $1 billion, they were lawfully able to use 10%, which is $100 million, to pay down the operating budget. To date, they're sitting on that $100 million in the bank, and yet they're enacting service cuts and job cuts. So there's an illogical refusal on the part of Jay Walder and the MTA to apply that $100 million that's available to them right now to stop these cuts and to stop the job cuts.
Tell me why you're out here today and what union you represent.
Okay, I represent Amalgamated Transit Union Local 689. I'm a retired president of the local. And I'm out here to make sure that the working public, for working people who need transportation more than anybody else. And with the cuts that they're proposing, especially in our city, and now I find out in other cities around the United States, it's a terrible thing and especially with the economy being the way it is.
You came all the way from Washington, D.C., so this is not just a local problem.
No, it's not. It's all across the United States. It's a problem with transit funding, and it's operating funding, and it affects all of us, and that's why we're here in solidarity for New York.
Now tell me some of the layoffs and things that you're aware about across the country.
Oh.
What's happening in D.C. first?
Well, D.C., we've had a few. Our budget is due in June, and we're expecting about 300 to 500 layoffs unless they get the funding that they need. Chicago, Pittsburgh, New York, California, you can go all the way across Atlanta, Cleveland. Cleveland got hit very, very hard. St. Louis, Missouri got hit very hard. Detroit, Michigan was hit hard.
Hi, my name is Thomas Wilson, General Chairman for Local 1440, Staten Island, New York. I'm here to also show up for support. Although International couldn't make it here, we're United Transportation Union, Local 1440. We're here also to show our support. We work for the MTA, and we suffer just as all others. Unfortunately, we are the little guys. We are constantly transferred on, and there's a mismanagement of funds that go on that no one knows about. And it's a constant fight that we go on, and the workers are blamed. We need to settle down, and everyone needs to take focus. I would like for somebody, finally, on the federal level, to find out what happens to the capital funds that go on. What happens to the money? There's so much waste and mismanagement that goes on, and they blame the workers. Let's get it right, once and for all. Thank you.
You know, I don't want to paint the wrong picture here, but what you have to remember is every bus and every train car that's built in America, if you do the math, creates about 1,000 jobs for other people. Aside from everything else, the steel has to be made, the paint has to be made. If you need jobs in this country, transit is the way to create them. There are thousands of jobs associated with the manufacture of every bus and every train, and it all can be done in this country. We can use American steel, we can use American workers, we can put America back to work through the transit system.
We need the government to start funding transportation. It is going to ease the need for oil. It is going to improve our environmental condition. It is going to allow people to get to work. You can't ask people to go out and look for a job when it takes them now more time than ever. You know, Congressman Meeks talked about Queens. Almost everybody in Queens has to take a bus to the train. So transportation is very important to working men and women, not only in New York City, but in Chicago, Cleveland, Atlanta, Washington, D.C. If we have money to fund 2 wars, certainly we have money to fund mass transportation. President Obama is from Chicago. He's from an urban environment. He understands the need to fund urban mass transportation, and we call on the president to step up and make some money available to the cities to support mass transportation, to support the working people.
One thing the rich, the working class, the working poor, and the poor all have in common is that they all use transportation. The United States of America must make a financial commitment for operating capital to transportation. I just have to add one more thing that Brother Severa said. There was a comment made about labor concessions with the MTA. Metro North Labor and Long Island Railroad Labor has made pension concessions and health and welfare concessions. Mayor Bloomberg doesn't talk about that. What we have. Thank you.
All right.
Grant Higgs from the Amalgamated Transit Union in Newark.
As stated earlier today, we need federal funding to keep our transit systems going. Without this public transportation, as said earlier, people cannot get around. Senior citizens can't get to their appointments or see their families. We need this funding, and we need it now from Washington. And with the help of all of you good people across this whole United States, we have to get on the government's butt and make them get off the money. Give it up. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, look at here. I think the picture we're trying to paint here is that mass transit is an essential public service along the lines of fire, police, and sanitation. And until the decision makers in this country recognize that, there's going to be crisis after crisis after crisis funding mass transit in cities across the country. I'm going to bring back the Reverend Jackson for some closing remarks.
All right. I would say to the workers, we must change the frame of this debate. We cannot have subsidies and gifts for the banks and wage cuts for the workers. It's now time to bail out our economy bottom up. It starts with jobs, jobs, jobs. College jobs, jobs, jobs. It's urban, suburban, mass transportation. That's how you get to the job, or schools, or hospitals, or home and recreation. It's time for us to make new rail, replace old rail. Americans can make the steel, Birmingham, Pittsburgh, and Gary. Americans can make the buses and make the trains, get our kids to school safe and on time. So we'll be having mass rentals all around the nation. Rain will be working with these workers, ended up with maybe a massive march on Washington for jobs, jobs, jobs. It all begins with mass transit. God bless you.
Thank you.